And with the custody battle, that was really hard because we had to choose to live somewhere. And really what it came down to was, you know, who do you love more, you know?
Mum, don't stand too close to me. Mum, don't come with me. Just drop me here.
Don't call me names, like...
Oh, our pet names. I'm not allowed to call him his pet names anymore.
Dad did yesterday in front of Greg's mum and Dad and him.
Well, that's my name for you. That's you.
I kind of feel like, when does it get to an end where he'll stop kind of coddling me and telling me what to do and pointing out things that I can improve on, and actually saying, gee, that's good, keep that up, do something, it's great, it's something different than what he always tells me. Because just the slightest thing I do wrong, you can do better than that, and stuff like that.
I'm not picking on you, although it seems that I'm picking on you, but it's exactly what my father did to me. And I'm doing the same thing to Brendan, and I think I've got to stop doing that. But I don't know any other way.
Michael Edwards' eigen vader was fotograaf van beroep en hield een uitgebreid filmarchief bij van zijn gezin. Elke avond noteerde Michaels vader zijn gedachten in een klein, in leer gebonden dagboek.
16 april 1946. Elke ochtend breng ik mijn kleine makker Michael naar de kleuterschool verderop in de straat. Meestal huilt hij als ik wegga, maar nooit lang. Ik vraag me af hoe lang dit plezier me nog vergund is.
Aan de hand van dit dagboek gaan we na welke invloed Michaels opvoeding heeft gehad op de relatie die hij nu met zijn eigen tienerkinderen heeft. Bij een tweede gezin en hun vrienden kijken we terug op de strijd die tieners en hun ouders leveren om los te komen van elkaar. En een derde gezin bespreekt hoe die kwetsbare puberteitsjaren worden bemoeilijkt door een scheiding.
Yeah, the only image I remember is a back step at Hornsby, and Dad sitting on one end, just crying, and Mum on the other, just sort of sitting there, just sort of sitting and not showing any emotion. And I think Michael and I were playing in the back garden, but I just was aware of it being like that. I think that's affected me in many ways, in the sense that I see you more as a victim and Mum more as the person who, like,
it's just
instigated it, I guess.
Because she basically realised before I did that we weren't really meant to stay married as long as
and yet the fact that I saw you crying, you know, that's a pretty strong image for a 5-year-old child to see.
I found it hard to handle at that time. I feel in my upbringing I was sort of almost indoctrinated to believe that it would be a good idea to have your children while you're young.
And he was very keen that we start our family, you know, early. And one of the reasons he used to give was that he didn't want children running around him as little children when he was 40. He wanted to be able to sort of enjoy other things and get on with life.
I'm better off in a way that it was done when I was young, but then that's hard to say. Like, I could have some mad psychological effects from this breakup, which I haven't really, well, I don't know that they're there like they're apparent, but I can't see them apparent because this is the way I've always been.
And we bought this wonderful piece of land and built a house for $402, which was a shack built out of junk, and it sort of was going to be there for 1 year, but it happened, in fact, to be there for 15 years or 16 years. And we lived in this open-air building for a long time.
This is the bathroom.
Yeah, we moved into a flat in Hornsby with Suzanne and her 2 children. And those were fairly hard times for everybody, I think. But
there a rock concert or something?
Yeah. Dad said he would go with you and take you on Sunday.
Yeah, that is included in it. That's included in the day.
No, that's not the same thing as what you're talking about.
But it's included in the day.
No, it's not.
It is.
Honey, it's not.
How isn't it?
It's a separate day. Sunday is a different day of events from Saturday. Saturday it might be.
It's not on Sunday.
It's on Saturday and Sunday next week.
Yes, but the concert's on Saturday night and the motorbike's on Saturday.
They're on Sunday as well.
Yes, but I'm not going on Sunday. Saturday.
We know we're on
You want to
Saturday.
go on Saturday? You want to go on Saturday?
Yeah.
And stay and watch the concert at night?
Yeah.
And how late does the concert go?
No, probably. I don't know.
Might be a little hard.
Find out.
Well,
I'm working on Saturday. You're working on
and I'm
Saturday.
working on Saturday, so I can't really go. I can't really take you on Saturday. I can take you on Sunday, but I don't
Could we
really.
go Saturday night and watch the concert and then see the bikes on Sunday.
And what are we gonna do? Just stay up all night?
No, you
We'll
just
just
want to
sleep
go.
over.
You want to go.
So you want me to drive?
I'll take a tent,
Finish
sleep
work.
over.
You want me to finish work, drive home, pick you up, drive to Eastern Creek, and go to a rock concert, which
Yeah,
I don't
sleep
want.
the
Which I
night.
don't want to do at all. And then spend the night, and then watch motorbikes the next day.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the argument started off, but there's occasional couple of times where it gets worse and worse and worse, and I just can't handle it anymore. I can't listen to them.
How about, I got a better deal. How about, I'll take you to watch the motorbikes and watch the touring cars on Sunday. And the next time there's a rock concert that you want to go to, your mom can take you.
So I don't want to go with Mum.
Dad.
I don't want to
How's
go
that
with Mum.
sound?
I don't want to go with Mum.
He is very happy to dismiss our experience, our age, our exposure, our wisdom, hopefully, because the push is... Hold on, are you okay? One of our home movies showed me ironing his hair because his hair went from completely straight to curly. It's gonna be really hot. Between 11 and 12 was when he really became different. He wasn't the little boy anymore. Well, there were vestiges of the little boy, there still are, but he became quite self-absorbed. He was particularly interested in video games, and that time I really got quite annoyed with him, got quite angry, because I thought I'd explained it to him, why it was important that he be with us. And I went over and I tore shreds off him, literally, and I made him come back.
What are you doing, Sean? What are you doing?
And it got to the point with him where we didn't know whether it was worse to have him there scowling and looking like he'd like to be 100 miles away, or have him just go, in which case then he wasn't there, and we missed out on that valuable communication time. But that was the change that we found the hardest to accept, because up till then he had been very close.
Oh, car coming. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. Faster, because you got cars behind you. Okay, now we'll pull over as soon as we can. Keep going. Don't fight me, Sean. Let me tell you where to go.
Hold it.
You're gonna run off the road. You're right on the edge. You're fine.
Why do you have to be on the edge?
Because that's where you belong, in case someone comes.
It's easier just being in the middle.
No, it isn't.
Mommy,
Yeah, honey.
I'm getting car sick.
Are you? I'm not surprised. Sean's driving.
We didn't have many friends, and where we lived there weren't many children my age, and I seemed to spend most of my youth or younger days with my parents.
Maandag 12 juli. Michaels viool heeft ons deze week 5 pond gekost. En Joey en ik hebben de grootste moeite om de eindjes aan elkaar te knopen. Joey is voortdurend bang dat er mensen rekeningen komen innen. Ik zit hem achter zijn vodden, want hij is pas 5,5. Maar ik zie nu al hoe slim en handig hij is. Problemen met Michael over de viool. Hij doet niet wat hij beloofd heeft. Hij weigert gewoon om erop te spelen. Joey was vanavond bij Dr. Dawson, die haar vermoeden bevestigde dat ze zwanger is. We hopen al heel lang op een tweede kind. Ik belde vanmiddag even na 4 en kreeg te horen dat ik een zoon heb. Wenste heel even dat het een meisje was geweest als tegenwicht voor Michael, maar voelde me opeens heel blij. Howard is 17 maanden en wordt door iedereen bewonderd. Hij is groot, stevig, sterk als een beer, lief als een cherubijn met prachtige gouden krullen. Grote zorgen om Michael. Hij was vanavond in tranen. Om dezelfde reden als altijd. De kinderen op school pesten hem en maken hem het leven zuur. Om die reden hebben we hem al van de vorige school afgehaald. Het gaat me vreselijk aan het hart. Maar wat kan ik in vredesnaam voor die jongen doen? Michael is een ontzettend probleem. Als hij nou maar eens meewerkte in plaats van altijd zijn kont tegen de krib te gooien. Van mijn idee om een kameraad voor mijn zoons te zijn, komt weinig terecht.
I never had a real close relationship that I can call a mateship. It was always father and son.
De twee jongens werken Joey en mij hevig op de zenuwen. En ik ben zo prikkelbaar als een beer met een zweer op zijn kop. Wat je Michael ook vraagt, als het hem niet aanstaat, gaat hij drenzen.
His standards were very high for me. I always had to be careful what I did and what I said and how I acted in front of ladies and people.
Ik ben benieuwd hoe Michaels rapport er dit jaar zal uitzien. Dat vreselijke mens van Crow zal wel weer opscheppen dat haar zoon de beste van de klas is. Michael is veel knapper van uiterlijk en verstand en veel beter opgevoed dan hij. Maar de suffert verdoet elke avond zijn tijd. Zijn examens zijn nu voorbij en we zullen de resultaten moeten afwachten. Een deel van Michaels uitslagen zijn vandaag bekend geworden. Niet best. Kennelijk heb ik hem te laat aangepakt. Ik heb hem gewaarschuwd dat alleen blokken helpt. En dat hij geen motortjes voor zijn modelvliegtuigen krijgt als hij niet bij de beste 6 eindigt. Zijn kansen op hoger onderwijs lijken nu wel verkeken.
I believe he wanted me to be what he couldn't be. And that's all he could see. He couldn't see what I really wanted to be. He didn't realize that by building model aeroplanes from nothing and making them fly was that sort of thing that I wanted to do. Where he wanted me to sit down and maybe read books.
Michael op zijn 13e. Een tengere, gezonde jongen met fijne trekken en een overgevoelige aard. Intelligent, maar geen studiehoofd. Weinig vrienden. Een prettige kameraad als hij blij en geïnteresseerd is, maar stuurs en chagrijnig als hij uit zijn doen is. Ik vind het moeilijk te vatten hoe een jongen met Michaels verstand zijn schoolwerk zo kan verwaarlozen. Hij wil gewoon niet leren. En ik kan hem er niet toe brengen. Joey en ik zitten daar erg over in. Nieuwjaarsdag 1956. 7 uur 's avonds. Michael is nu behoorlijk seksueel voorgelicht. Maar verdere details bewaar ik voor een gesprek als hij een jaar of 16 is. Over aanvaardbare en onaanvaardbare praktijken enzovoorts. Daar hoeft hij zich nu nog niet druk om te maken.
I mean, the reason why Dad and I have a connection could possibly be simply the fact that Mum left Dad and I felt sorry for Dad. I mean, I don't know, but I felt really responsible for Dad's happiness.
I was aware they were very, very much hoping all the time that we'd get back together and that their family unit would be reunited. So they were very much all over the place in terms of stability. They didn't really have a stable home at that time.
I suppose one thing that I do see now is when I look at the photographs of the children of that time, they don't look very happy. Yeah.
Human made this character the delightful pair of scallywags. Delightful pair expecting to move to Australia before their shootout announcement.
Well, I suppose my anger is a lot to do with the divorce. I didn't know where I stood with my family. And my mum provided me with a good place, a stable place to be. But in my dad's house especially, I feel that I was sort of put out of the way a bit sometimes. Although I probably wasn't. That's just what I felt like. Because when I was young, my dad used to give me heaps of attention. And that sort of lessened as soon as my dad remarried. When Debbie first moved to Lovat Bay, I've been told that I stood in the doorway and wouldn't let her in.
I sensed that I had overridden his despair, you know, that I mean, he was very despairing about this reality that all of a sudden this was like concrete, permanent proof that his mum wasn't coming back.
didn't want Debbie to move in because I felt she was taking away my dad, I suppose, in a way, because like she'd move in and then he'd show her a lot of attention and show Joel and Timmy a lot of attention, and I'd sort of be like left out a bit. And
he felt like I think I and my children were usurping his home. This was his home, and this is where he was born and brought up, and it belonged to him and his parents and Liz, but not to me and not to the children.
She hasn't been a mother, which is good. The only reason I think, or the main reason I think why Debbie and I can get on is because she's been a friend.
What are you doing?
yeah, we used to put on a part play or some sort of play of something where Liz was the heroine sort of thing and me the baddie. I was always baddie in these sort of things, and I wasn't always baddie, but I don't know, I just sort of fitted into that role. It must have been my voice, or I don't know.
Michael's often, I feel, being used as the scapegoat. He was the one that really housed all the frustration and anger more than Liz and anybody else in the family.
Now this one here is James. This one here is Todd. This one is Lisa. This one is Ben. And over here we have Jonathan.
I remember getting to the stage where I still really wanted to be able to play the games, and I'd say, oh, let's play a big game, and I'd get everyone else enthused, and they'd go, yeah, cool. So we'd all get into character, we'd all start playing, and then I'd get really bored. And I remember Joel and Timmy used to say, God, you know, you're no fun anymore. You always just cop out halfway through. And because I don't know, I just wasn't interested. I mean, I remember feeling really sad because I could no longer be interested in playing these games. I didn't find them fulfilling anymore.
What are they fun?
I got my trail bike about a month ago. I've always wanted one all my life, and Mum's always wanted me to do more sporty things like sailing and things like that, but I've never really liked anything else but for motorbikes and cars and that sort of thing. So finally I saved up the money and Mum let me get the trail bike.
Do you think it's fair that Mom's put a chain around your bike?
No.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to ride it on the street.
It's only crossing the road.
Yeah, I know, but that's what Mom said. She doesn't want you riding it on the street. That's what she's worried about. I mean, if you said, oh, I'm going to walk it across, we'd say, oh, yeah. If we're watching you, you're going to walk it across. If we're not watching you, you're going to drive it across. Because that's what I would have done. We realize that. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about is last weekend, we took the bike away, and we went camping, and you had a ball. We drove it for 3 days, all day, every day, and it went really well, didn't it? But now there's a bunch of stuff wrong with it. Because it's an old bike, it's a second-hand bike, and I didn't expect it to go for 3 days, 8 hours a day, up and down hills, through streams, falling off it and everything. But it did, didn't it?
Yep.
What I'm trying to get through to you is that you should, when something's wrong with it, you should stop it and fix it, not just continue to ride it until there's two or three things broken. Because then
you like to do it, not me.
Well, I find it hard now with the way kids are, that the breakdown in authority is much different than it was when we were kids. It's not the same.
She said I wasn't thankful for getting the motorbike, which I was, and I just told her to go and see a psychiatrist. So she told me to get out of the car and I had to walk home.
Some of the experiences or the communications get so bizarre that I can't believe I'm the only person that has come face to face with it, and it's a great relief to find that I'm not. That in fact my bizarre times are probably no more bizarre than those of my friends. So.
But there's no way that she's the same person or ever will be. She's just become a nicer, mature person now than instead of the sort of horrible thing she was last year. But
they're different.
So you kind of got to get to know them again, and in the way that you would, not a stranger, but someone you haven't seen for a long time, whatever, that you don't know their likes and dislikes anymore. And I feel is what Becky's been like. She's no longer the person I knew as a pre-adolescent. I don't know if she would understand that, but she's different, and I've had to get to know her as almost like a new person all over again. I have to sort of stop, consider what she's thinking and feeling and so on.
What are you looking at? A knife, yeah? No.
I've known Becky and Kate for about pretty close to all my life because I've gone to school with them. It's pretty good if you've got a problem, come up and talk to Becky or Kate because they seem to already have known because they've already been through it and things like that, running away and things like that.
Bombers come down, their big pants, their big jackets, but they're sweating like pigs. Yeah.
So what does your mum think about smoking now? Smoking pot? Has she ever found anything in your room?
No, so I do it so it doesn't worry me.
Not much.
She doesn't. I don't reckon she'd have a big spit. She'd spew.
Do you reckon?
Probably.
Do you reckon she'd kick you out?
Oh, she probably wouldn't get that far to that extent, but she'd just...
Mass argument?
Yeah, big
lecture. Yeah.
I know I got blamed the other day because I came home with glassy eyes. I was been on the back of a push bike and she came home and she said you'd been smoking pot.
Really?
She didn't say it, but she knew. She reckoned I was, which I wasn't.
Mum used to do that to me all the time. Walk into the house, she'd check the eyes to see if they're bloodshot and notice how much I eat because you know how it increases your appetite.
I've been smoking for probably about 2 years now. I knew they hated it, so I turned around and did it. And every time they come back in, I was like telling them off without saying it.
Well, smoking was a way of telling them off?
Yeah. Because I knew it got them angry.
Well, I was actually so depressed at one stage I was contemplating suicide. But as soon as I mentioned that to Mum, she said, well, that's got to do with your drug problem. And I said, it's got nothing to do with that.
Do you think it does?
No. I mean, you could have done anything but read my diary because that's really
That was
low.
when you ran away the first time. We had no idea where you were. You could have been Queensland or the Cross or whatever.
I was going to write in my diary to let you know.
We didn't know. What we were looking for was a clue as to why you'd done what you'd done, where you were. And we had the police here. We had to get photos
so
of
stupid because
you were a missing person. I mean,
yeah, but
you can't say, oh,
you can't
this
see
is Becky's
that
diary.
it was because of you that all the times that I left you and Dad, it was because of you and Dad, and then you say to me, I don't, you still can't see why I kept leaving, and it was because of you. And
we
you still
didn't read your diary till after you left, so you can't use that as an excuse.
Oh, one of the times it was. Came back and found all my stuff you'd gone through. All my letters, my boxes.
That's because of the drugs that you had in the house. You had marijuana in here, and you had a bong.
I'd actually wanted to live at Dad's. I'd kept saying, look, you know, can we live at Dad's? I remember once when I brought it up with Mum, I really wanted to live at Dad's at that time, and Mum took me to a shopping centre to talk to me about it, and I was so angry at her because here I was in the middle of Chatswood Chase talking about, like, you know, down the food hall, sitting on the metal chairs and the whole lot, talking about, you know, why I didn't care about her, why this, why that, and I just remember Mum saying, you know, getting really angry and saying, God, why have you got such a faraway look in your eye?
Now, when Suzanne moved to Canberra, I wasn't too happy about this sudden idea that I would hardly see the children. Ensuing from that was a custody battle, which was really tragic.
Okay, this is my bedroom, and it wasn't actually built until the court case because, well, Dad told me it was because Mum said that I was sleeping with my brother and that was really bad, so Dad thought he'd better build me a room. I lived in here, I don't know, probably from year 7 until year 9.
Sue and Steve, after being through an incredible emotional turmoil for a few months, then decided that they would give the children a fair amount of choice, and Michael chose to go to Canberra and Liz chose to stay here.
Like, the overall thing was, I mean, was their battle, but really what it came down to was, you know, who do you love more, you know? And I don't know, and, you know, and then Dad and, I mean, everyone has their say, like, Mum was always, you know, putting Dad down, Dad was always putting Mum down, and so you didn't know what to believe, you didn't know what to listen to.
up to that stage, up to the end of year 7, she was still full of love of life and confidence in herself and love of people and her friends and her family. Sure, there were insecurities there. All of a sudden, she switched from that to this, I hate, you know, every second word was hate. I hate, doesn't matter what it was everything, everything, everybody, everything, her life, the school, you know, the home.
And I made myself really, really hard, like it's like no one could penetrate through. And that was the year when I was slashing my textbooks.
Because she'd slash them with pens, written things in them, swear words, you know, the whole lot, and slash them with knives. This is while she was at school.
Can you please just wait a sec, we'll get the popcorn out, boys.
I have a lot of built-up anger, which I cover up, which I have covered up a lot all my life, and I need to find some ways to release this anger. It sometimes all rushes out, and then people will get scared of it. Like my stepmom is sometimes really frightened of my voice when I get really, like, sort of blow my top in a way. Like, I'll speak with a lot of feeling in my voice. I was the old house, like, we all loved it. And it was a small house, so we were always together. Yeah, I liked it a lot, and it is sad that it had to go, because for Dad to build the new house, it was, like, in the wrong position. But I suppose by the time that we did demolish it, I was, like, sort of wanting to get rid of it, because I wanted Dad to get the new house done, and I felt sort of like, I don't know whether I put on a pretense of having fun putting the house down or not, I'm not sure.
That was mad.
When Elizabeth came to Canberra to live with Hugh and I, she came at the end of year 9.
And I mean, at the same time, I thought, oh, well, you know, it'd be good to spend the time with Mum, maybe it'd be okay. But, I mean, the main reason, like, you know, that was the reason, but it wasn't necessarily the main one. The main one was just basically for a new experience to sort of start again.
She was suddenly very traumatised and said she couldn't stand living here, and she had to go and live with her friend, her friend's girlfriend and her mother in a Canberra.
I was so depressed. I was just in such a dark, horrible state that I could see no end to. I thought I was going mad. I literally thought I was crazy and was totally losing all sense of reality and all sense of all sense of reality. I felt like I was just insane, and I didn't think I was going to be able to come back. And the idea of killing myself was just so peaceful.
As soon as she mentioned the word suicide, I did take her seriously, because I've heard far too often, you know, of kids who sort of get carried away with the idea of it, and sort of, it's almost like it can be an impulsive thing, and it can work.
Like, I always had a strong sense of who I was and what I was meant to do. And I suddenly got to this point where I had no idea of who the hell I was.
It was upsetting at the time, but sort of getting things in perspective and sort of thinking about it in more sensible ways, I suppose. I've come to realise that that's a fairly normal part of the relationship between a mother and daughter.
Vanavond oneenigheid met Michael. Met deze regen en kou kwam hij pas lang na donker thuis en lang nadat we hadden gegeten. Hij was bij een meisje thuis geweest, ene Frances. Dit gaat te ver. Ik heb gezegd dat het afgelopen moet zijn. Haar moeder is nooit thuis en haar vader is dood. Michael praat niet meer met ons. Maar een jonge hengst moet soms beteugeld worden.
When I first went out with a girl, I had absolutely no self-confidence at all. I just didn't know what I was doing and wasn't prepared for any of the feelings you get. I found it very interesting, but somewhat frightening, because my mother and father didn't show that much affection for them between themselves. So here am I with a a young girl, and I really didn't know what to do.
So what did you do?
Nothing. Nothing.
Michael is de laatste tijd erg kribbig. Soms is hij niet te harde. Hij is er niet blij mee dat ik zijn vriendin op afstand houd. De reden is gewoon dat ze niet het juiste niveau voor Michael heeft. Bovendien zit hij nog op school, zonder inkomen, maar probeert hij wel een meisje mee uit te nemen op zijn kosten. Dat komt niet van hem.
When I was a lot younger, I was pretty insecure. I still think I'm insecure now, but in a different way. I tried to be friendly, but it seemed to be aloof more than anything else. I think that was because of the upbringing I was given. Both my mother and father never showed great affection, and I had to learn that.
But the thing is, we've never been really overly affectionate.
Not a gushy family.
We're not.
No.
Like,
No.
I don't ever remember having to kiss you goodnight before I went to bed.
Well, a little girl you did.
That's a little, but then not.
Well, I used to rub
When
your
I
forehead
was-
every time before you went to sleep, and you'd look up with me and say, "Oh, Daddy."
It was a long
And
time
it was
ago.
the same thing, just that little pat on the forehead like that, and you knew it was safe, and you went straight to
She
sleep.
really enjoyed that.
Oh, it gives me funny feelings.
Rechteroog had gekregen. Toen hij met Kevin een medaille wou gieten. Doreen en Ben hadden hem naar het ziekenhuis gebracht. Joey en ik haasten ons er ook heen, waar Howard op de eerste hulpafdeling lag te jammeren van de pijn. Operatie om 7:30. Al 3 uur bezig. En nog niet klaar. Gezichtsvermogen vermoedelijk verloren. Te laat.
Things were different after that because it was quite a very severe injury at the time, and I've had a lot of operations on it since. And so I guess I could say
overkomen.
And anyway, it couldn't have happened at a worse time. I mean, those teenage years, I guess, are pretty tough anyway. But for me, I had this added thing of, this terrible thing with my eye and wearing bandages and absolutely no chance of, well, I thought, of meeting girls and things like this. So, yeah, it's pretty much of a marker in my life.
Misschien beginnen de lang gevreesde psychische gevolgen van zijn uiterlijk zich nu te openbaren. We zullen zorgen dat het oog er goed uit komt te zien. Het is zeer vermakelijk als Howard zondags naar dansles gaat. Hij gaat pas om 12 uur de deur uit, maar vandaag was hij om 9 uur gewassen en piekfijn uitgedost. Hij schijnt het heerlijk te vinden.
With ballroom dancing, it's really important that it's really hip to hip, and you really have to sort of pull the girl into you, and she has to lean back. So it's basically, it is hip to hip contact, which you need so that you both know where your legs are going and what you're doing. And I was most sort of I don't know, perhaps.
Betrapte ik Howard met een vredesbutton op zijn jas. Hij begint eruit te zien als een beatnik. Heb ik deze zoon verwekt? Ik ging met vrienden van mijn werk naar een onnozele film, The Graduate. Toen we naar buiten kwamen zag ik Howard. Hij had nu haar tot op zijn schouders en hij zag er vreselijk uit. Gelukkig zag hij me niet. Anders had ik hem moeten voorstellen.
It was unlucky for him because he was one of those parents who were caught right in probably the biggest cultural revolution the Western world's seen, which was, I guess, the 60s and 70s, and everything changed. And he happened to have a son who was right in the middle of it, and it was just unfortunate for him, and it was hard for him to cope with. Because when I was young, there was all sorts of things going on. There was the Vietnam War, and there's like sort of hippies and peace marches and all this sort of stuff. And I thought it was that kind of divided me from my parents. I just thought, well, they're just a bunch of oldies and they don't know anything. But I think kids today,
Our children don't think of us as oldies like we did of our parents.
I don't think they do. They seem to have a fairly good understanding of us, I think. Do you think that we're think of us as like a bunch of oldies, or do you think of us sort of as parents? You do?
Yeah, I think so. I think a bunch of oldies.
Do you? Oh, I didn't think we... I didn't think it was that bad.
We try.
And why do you think that?
Well, it's different to...
We're different because we're older.
Well, there is about a 30-year gap.
I would help him. I would enforce his work routines. Where he was unable to enforce his own work routine, for instance, assignments due and homework and that sort of thing, I would force him to do it. I would take responsibility for it myself.
We're on the video to show how happy you were in your first day at school.
Sean loves school, don't you, Sean?
Sean loves school. Sean really enjoys school.
And I learned painfully that my hovering had not been helping him. My hovering was, in fact, propping him up far beyond the time when he should have come to grips with his own problems himself.
I think with Sean we held on too long, and then when we did step back, it was traumatic, because he, like Betty said, he really did fall in a heap.